Hello and welcome to another special edition of Past Your Bedtime in collaboration with TwoCan Mentoring. My name's Bev. Continuing over the next few weeks, I'm going to be talking to a number of people across the agricultural sector who've taken the opportunity to seek out the help of a mentor to support them in the next phase of their career. Mentoring, as distinct from coaching and training, is very much a two-way street, allowing both parties to steer the learnings as the situation dictates. But the TwoCan programme also provides for some structured learning, as well as an invaluable network of like-minded people looking to support, share and connect. A recurring theme in these interviews is just how effective the matching process is between mentor and mentee. During onboarding, both mentors and mentees go through the same process, outlining their career journey, goals and reasons for joining the programme. Looking at the whole person and conducting an in-depth interview ensures that not only are specific skills considered, but that personal values are surfaced, moving beyond matching simply based on job titles alone. Aligning characteristics, learning styles and behavioural dimensions make for a truly strong connection. My guests today certainly demonstrate the power of that connection, and I really enjoyed hearing how Ben Williams and Abby Cook got on. I started out by asking Abby what prompted her to seek out a mentor.
So it's lovely to see you both. I guess it would be great to start with you, Abby. Tell me a little bit about what you do and why you approach the mentoring programme.
So I am based in Gloucestershire. I came up here originally to go to uni and then kind of never really left. Background was I worked as a farm business consultant for a dairy farming company when I came out of uni, did that for about 6 years. Went to a land agent company for a year because I wanted to just sort of slightly spread my wings, do a bit more farm management because I was quite farm business consultancy, but very like dairy centric in my original role. My background is beef and arable. So I grew up on a beef and arable farm down in Hampshire, which my parents ran for an ex-military family. So very much love my livestock. Decided after 6 years that I wanted to go and just do a little bit more rather than just being very focused on sort of one sector. Went to the land agency company for a year. Job didn't really turn out to be what it was advertised. I also realised that big corporate land agency company was so far from me, it was unbelievable. So decided that was not a very good idea. So after that, also decided that I got fed up of working for people, so went self-employed. I think I said to Ben, I kind of had like a quarter life crisis at that point and was like, nah, I'm going to do everything different. And also part of the rationale behind that was I was actually really missing practical agriculture. So being very practical, growing up on a farm, I absolutely loved being outside and getting stuck in as much as using my brain inside to sort of deal with the bigger challenges. So I kind of wanted to find a bit more of a mix. And at that point I was with someone who had sheep. So that was kind of a begrudgingly but natural progression into doing sheep. And then I picked up a serious sheep addiction, which I've yet to quit. So started doing a bit of contract shepherding so that I could get like a practical fix. And it always makes me chuckle because I'm always like, oh, that's my kind of like brain rest days, but it just challenges my brain in a different way. And then, but carried on with the farm consultancy because I liked it. It's interesting. I get to see a lot of different businesses. And then started doing a bit of agricultural training delivery as well because I absolutely love teaching and training. And as you can probably tell, I can chat quite happily to anyone about anything. So started off doing a little bit of that, did a little bit of lecturing for a while. Was still working with people like the Royal Agricultural University, delivering sort of ad hoc training to them. And then picked up working with the Institute of Farm Administrators and Secretaries. So I deliver 4 out of their 5 training courses now as well. So I sort of, when someone asks me what I do, it's a little bit all encompassing.
Well,
Because
it's a little bit of a lot of things, I guess.
yeah, I probably I'm the definition of a farmer in that I am a jack of all trades and a master of none, because I do quite a lot of different things. But I've now got a little flock of sheep as well. So I have that with my parents. My parents get to do the fun bit now that they're finally retired as farmers. So they have an interest in the sheep. They get to go and look at them. But then they tell me what needs doing so that I get to do the hard bit and they get to do the fun bit of looking at them. And it works really nicely. So we sell them as box hogget to local customers at restaurants. So I kind of juggle quite a few things. And I think part of my reason for joining TwoCan and sort of going down the mentoring route was, one, that I'm quite interested in being a mentor. So I was like, well, actually, it'd be quite useful to be a mentee first, see how it works, and then I'd quite like to do that, because I think
natural progression.
Yeah, and like elements of what I do in my job, actually, as you said, you inadvertently do it sometimes without realizing. And I was like, actually, I really enjoy doing that. So that was part of it. And also, I think I had got to a crunch point where I was doing quite a lot of stuff, but I was floundering. I didn't quite know what I really wanted to do. And I think I actually probably needed someone to give me a kick at the backside, because I think deep down I knew what I was happy with and what I wasn't happy with. But I needed someone to just come and give me a kick at the backside and question me and be like, why are you still doing that? Give me a justification. Because it's really easy to not hold yourself accountable. Like, I'm great at holding other people accountable, but I can quite happily dodge my own accountability questions.
Yeah.
And Ben's very good at that, because he doesn't let me wriggle out of anything. And that's what I needed, was someone to just be like, yeah, but you don't really like that, do you? So why are you doing it? And I think that's what I wanted, was I just needed to take that step where someone was actually going to hold me accountable, because I've got lots of ideas and I've got lots of, I'd like to do this, but just never get on and do it. And I think
focus.
And I think I needed someone to just make me put my brave pants on and actually go and do it. Because I was like, if this was anyone else, I'd be kicking them and be like, just, what's the worst that can happen? Go and do it. Give it a try. Da, da, da. But because it was me, I was like,
taking your own advice.
Do it. Yeah, exactly. So, I just wanted a bit of structure as well, and a bit of focus and a bit of accountability.
Well, enter stage left Benjamin Williams then.
The accountability master.
Not too big a task at hand. Ben, give me a little bit of about your background and how you got involved in the mentoring.
Yeah, so my background's, there's a lot of parallels to Abby. I think that's probably a testament to the matching process. So I also have a squiggly career. So I spent best part of 14 years as a special needs teacher, specialising in science, but latterly in agriculture. So I built farm units in schools to re-engage disaffected, I think at the time we called them disaffected youths. There's probably a different term now. Naughty boys and occasionally naughty girls, but mostly naughty boys. And as an ex-naughty boy myself, probably poacher turned gamekeeper. But within that, those sorts of units, they have to pay their way. So there was all sorts of what the youths would now call side hustles. So we had street food businesses and farm shops and various other bits. So a lot of parallels with sort of what Abby's been doing or is doing. And a bit like Abby, I suppose, then I had various sort of life, quarter life. What did you call it, Abby? Quarter life
crisis.
That's it, quarter life crisis.
So yeah.
Yeah, I started as a marine biologist, but realised nobody would pay me unless I had a doctorate for a real job. And I spent 14 years trying to escape teaching, and finally did. Joined AHDB in pig sort of research and knowledge transfer. Loved that, but again, AHDB sort of transitioned into a different route. Probably didn't really suit me, or I didn't suit AHDB. Was the way. I did a master's back in 2020, 2022. I had a mentor at that point, a really lovely lady called Fiona, and similarly, I had all of these sort of ideas and concepts and bits and pieces and odds and ends, and she brought a lot of accountability actually to me. And I was going to do this and I was going to do that, and she just sort of asked, like, why? Because some of it was ego, some of it was sort of just hadn't been structurally thought through. But the one piece that was consistent was my job was becoming much more sustainability focused. The elements of my masters I enjoyed were the sustainability elements. And then I drifted into a role where I am now, which is for a company called Leprino Foods. So we make mozzarella. It's a global business. I look after sort of Europe and sort of Middle East, Africa, that sort of region, and sustainability. So yeah, it sort of felt like a sort of natural transition from where I was to where I am. I met Helen at Harper, and just got swept up in sort of what she was trying to do. Sort of, I really saw the value of the mentors I had through my career. Those people probably weren't always willing mentors for me in particular. Some of them I just sort of found and they tolerated me, but they were really, really valuable. In my teaching career, I'd had a lot of staff management experience, so perhaps there was elements of mentorship there, and at HDB. I hadn't really any staff responsibility with Leprino until sort of relatively recently, and I thought, well, actually, sort of a chance to sort of mentor and give back, if that's not too corny a phrase, after all the mentorship I'd had in the industry, but also sort of sharpen my own skills or refresh my own skills and sort of working with other people. I thought it was just too good an opportunity not to. So the chance to support Helen, the chance to learn something, and I have to say, Abby, it was very much a two-way street. Abby taught me probably more than I ever sort of delivered value back. And it has to be said that it definitely works both ways.
Yeah.
But that was sort of my introduction to this point.
There's definitely a similarity between the two of you in your styles. I can just tell that straight away. So I imagine there was a lot of gassing. How did you structure the mentorship, which is supposedly, well, it's over 6 months and a minimum of 6 hours across that period? How did you go about it? You both got busy careers.
And it's a lot more organised.
Yeah, there wasn't maybe a little, but it was relatively organic because I think neither of us deal with rigidity particularly well. It doesn't suit my timetable and work or personality, if I'm being honest. There's almost too many parallels between Abby and I think, in some ways. So I think from the first session, we did just talk, really, and we started to look at sort of where things were. I asked a lot of sort of pointed questions, sometimes silly questions, sometimes slightly antagonistic, just to try and sort of figure out where we're going. And I think at the end of that one, we agreed like one action, something really, really simple to see where it was. And it was a bit of a tester. And then we started to build in a bit more structures. We got to understand each other. I think from there, we started to really look at sort of what could be done. And it was really about sort of nipping off some of the noise, I think, wasn't it, Abby? Probably. As in, like you said, there's so much that you could do, wanted to do, possibly, that it was about a little bit of refinement. So, yeah, it was a bit of test and trial and sort of have a look at where we were going. And yeah, it grew from there. But the one thing we did hold ourselves to is we did come up with an action list that we would sort of distribute back and forth. And we really sort of built everything around that. But whilst that was our sort of reference point, everything else was really quite organic. Things came in, things dropped out pretty quickly. Other things sort of lingered through. And yeah.
Did anything surprise either one of you about it?
I think probably just like, I think how well we got on as well, because it is always slightly daunting that you've been put with someone that you've never met before. You have no idea. And it's, in one way, it's great because Ben knew nothing about me, my background, anything like that. And it's always, they always say that talking to a therapist is sometimes easier, isn't it? Because they don't know anything about you.
Yeah.
And I'm not saying you're a therapist, Ben, although you can put that on your CV if you want. But I think it was a little bit the same because he didn't know anything. It's like, I'm said to Ben, I'm really lucky. I have incredibly supportive parents who've always been very supportive. But I think there's always an element I want to make them proud and this, that, and the other. And actually, there were a few things that I admitted that I was like, it's not that I don't want to admit it to them, but it was almost hard to admit it to myself, to say, I don't want to do this anymore. I don't want to do that. But it was a lot easier to be open with Ben because he was very much like, no judgment. There's no like buy into your background or anything else.
Yeah.
And I think I was surprised at actually how easy it became to have that discussion. And yeah, at points there were questions that Ben asked and I could feel myself squirming going, oh, I've got to say the answer. I don't really want to say it out loud, but I know I have to. But it still became a lot easier because he was that one step removed. So it's very much like just a good sort of like sounding board.
Bit cathartic.
Yeah, it's definitely that. The matching was vital. I was also surprised because I had the same apprehension and same worries as Abby, which is really interesting. Mentor and mentee both sort of very nervous about somebody you don't really know, and it's all a bit of a mystery. And then sort of like to realise actually we do have commonalities despite the differences and various other bits and pieces was really good. And I agree. There was an element of like I'm renowned, like Ellen will know, I'm renowned for a certain degree of bluntness. But there is an effort most of the time to at least professionalize that bluntness, and I will bend and flex, particularly where there's an absolute bias or there's a real issue of commerciality, like all of these things that you have to struggle through in professional life. Like I can be direct with our customers as a business, but it's always dressed up within this element of sort of like, well, I would like you to still be a customer.
Yeah.
There was an element with Abby that actually I was there to genuinely sort of be honest and open and frank. And I wouldn't say that I was blunt for the sake of doing it, but there was no need to dress things up.
No obligation to dress it up.
Yeah.
And
I think there was in part, to be fair to Abby, I think that's part of your personality, Abby, is you are actually incredibly receptive to sort of critiques, but sort of suggestions and discussions, and perhaps just calling out the sort of really
Yeah.
is that really what we want to do? So credit to you, but actually the process did help without a doubt. It allowed almost a radical honesty in quite a very short space of time.
Yeah. What kind of topics? Sorry.
No, I was just going to say what I found actually really nice is because you say 6 months and that actually sounds quite a long time, but actually the way we did it was we had like an hour session each month. And when you break it down to that's nothing. Like an hour is, I mean, we ended up going over an hour a couple of times because Ben was lovely enough to give me some more of his time. But it's like when you break it down to that, if you say, well, effectively it was 6 hours, that is no time at all to actually get to the point where, because we did discuss quite a lot of different things and quite sort of, deep breath, I need to be honest here things, which I'm like, oh, I probably wouldn't discuss some of that with my friends because it is quite a vulnerable thing that I'm talking about. And like for one thing, like I have done a massive shift change in what sector I'm now working in, courtesy of Ben, because he gave me the kick up the arse to go and do it. And I am still doing a bit with the consultancy company that I was before with dairy, but very much pushing away from that now. And for a long time, I knew I needed to do that. And I knew I needed to have that conversation.
Yeah.
But in such a short space of time, Ben managed to get me from, I don't know how I'm going to cope, to just get on and do it. Put your big girl pants on. We'll get there. And actually, as a result of it, and I'm going to say, Ben, this is down to you. I've now got a job with the National Sheep Association because I actually put myself forward and was like, what's the worst that can happen?
Yeah.
Well, I'll counter. I didn't fill the application form out and go and do it. So I'd argue it was very much down to you. There was
50-50
a conversation that was had.
50-50.
I think in terms of strategies, we threw quite a lot of it actually. And Abby's right. I mean, 6 hours, it wasn't quite 6 hours. Obviously, we did get talking quite a bit, it was enjoyable. It was a pleasure to do. But yeah, 6 hours isn't a lot. So there was a bit of a plan in the background in terms of sort of bits and pieces. So the first one was sort of, like we said, was sort of let Abby talk really, because I think one of the big challenges with being a mentor is it's really tempting to go into almost like a coaching or a sort of advisory role. And I was conscious that that's not how, when I'd had mentors, I'd been mentored. There'd been coaching elements and they've been valuable, but it wasn't that. They just let me almost give myself enough rope to sort of, hang myself type thing. And so I think that was one of the first components. The other was absolutely setting some objectives, because I think if you have an hour that's just brilliant chat, that's great. but that gap in between each conversation, there has to be an action. Otherwise, it
Yeah.
is just an hour of conversation. There's nothing done.
Mm.
And there's almost nothing to, I mean, Abby made it really clear in that first meeting, needed somebody to hold her to account.
Yeah.
Well, therefore, there had to be,
Yeah.
right, have you done it?
Yeah.
And
Was she
there were a
good
little
at
bit that we,
sticking to it?
well, being brutally honest, and Abby, you can jump in and counter, but in that first one, no, not initially. But then there was an element of sort of like, I think we got to the second meeting and you were like, well, I've done one or two of the actions. And I think it was like, well, it's your time. Like you do what you want. And I think you, Abby, to be fair, sort of looked at it and went, yeah, you're right. And I mean,
Self-regulated.
Yeah.
Abby threw her all into it. Credit where credit's due. We did look at Ikigai
Yes.
as a structured sort of vision exercise. Where do you want to go? What are your priorities?
Yeah.
You're gonna
That's
ask me now
helpful.
what it is, aren't you?
I am
I
going
saw that.
Love
Thanks,
it.
Bev.
Love it.
So
Let's
Ikigai,
let Abby to explain it.
yeah.
Oh, no, Ben's way better at explaining it.
So I've full confession, and I said this to Abby. Like Ikigai was suggested to me by a chap called Neil, and for a long time I've also sort of no idea what I want to be when I grow up type job. So he suggested that I try Ikigai, and I've given it several attempts and failed miserably at each one because just no, didn't work for me. But we sort of laid it out, and the long and the short of it is it's a Venn diagram. And what you do is you look at sort of basically what do you love, what is your passion, what can you actually get paid for, what does the world need, and basically sort of what skill sets do you have. And obviously
Yeah.
at various points these all overlap, and in the middle where the 4 points overlap is your purpose. This is where you go. And the goal was we started with just the outside of the circle. Let's start with that. So I think the second session, or might have been the third actually, but the second session, you said to Abby, just have a go at filling out the outside. And to be fair to Abby, she'd done sort of a couple of rows in, and we just started to whittle stuff down between sort of what were the priorities there, and sort of, what are the motivations? Is it financial? Is it sort of reputational? Is it sort of just passion and enjoyment? And yeah, we used it as a bit of a reference and a framework, I suppose, and started to go from there. And then in between, there were a little bit of, right, well, if we've fallen out of that, I suppose there was a bit of a gap exercise, a bit unofficial. It's not like we sat down and sort of really sort of hauled Abby's life apart, but we did a bit of a gap exercise of, right, if that's where you're going, what is missing?
Uh-huh.
And there was simple things like CV. We looked at CV, didn't we, and had a little bit of a tweak. There was slightly more complex bits about sort of brand identity and sort of where would you go and who would you look for and sort of what are you going to put out, and yeah, we just went from there. Really.
Yeah.
Yeah, I found the Ikigai stuff. I know, Ben, you really struggle with it, but I found it. I think mine actually became quite clear, and when I started doing it, it was really clear that education, knowledge exchange was a massive part of it. Kept popping up everywhere, which does resonate because I know I love training, teaching.
Yeah. You
And
said
like we
that right at the beginning. Yeah.
Yeah, and we
But it
pulled
probably-
it apart. Sorry, Mum.
Probably wasn't obvious in that very first meeting though, because we talked
No.
about so much, and that was
Yeah.
the big challenge between your own business and actually that was really much about the provenance of product. You'd got, obviously there was that background in education and training, but it had been something you'd done, and sort of to a certain degree it didn't feel where the consultancy job was at the
Yeah.
moment. You then got your own business which was leaning back that way, but it was more about sort of progressive sort of data and very future looking. And so yeah, it was really interesting when we sort of came back to it that there was still elements of all of those, but it was very much defined under that education piece.
Yeah, and I think that's again, it's almost like that almost acts as a bit of accountability to remind me what I should be focusing on rather than what I feel I should be focusing on, if that makes sense. I think sometimes you feel like you should do stuff, but actually there's stuff that would be better to focus on because that's actually your real passion. And I think it just helped hold me accountable to the fact that the way I need to go is to make sure there is a knowledge exchange element to it because that's what I enjoy.
Yeah.
So I found that really useful. I've actually suggested it to someone else because I've started doing a little bit of mentoring for someone else through another scheme. And I was like, I've got an amazing diagram for you to use. So you'll be so proud to hear that I'm passing the Ikigai on. But I I liked it because it got me thinking as well. And I think a lot of it about being mentored is not necessarily giving you the answers, because I think, Ben, as you said, that more is like advisory and coaching side. It's actually just getting you to think. And it did, because a lot of the time, like after our sessions, I'd go away and I'd be really enthused, because it's amazing, isn't it? If you have someone who's really enthusiastic, you come away from it feeling so invigorated and energized. They always say that you want to surround yourself with radiators, not drains, and Ben's definitely a radiator because he just radiates energy, and you come away and you're like, right, okay, I'm going to do this and this. And that is what you need, because it can be really difficult, particularly if you're lone working a lot of the time as well. You just need that push. So yeah, no, I found that really useful. And I think, again, as Ben said, the action point list was really useful as well, because it gave me specific deadlines, and it held me accountable. And I got to the point of feeling like a 5-year-old where I didn't want to fail my spelling test and disappoint Ben. So I was like, I need to do my action points to make sure that he's not, because I think the first grade I got from doing my action points was a B. It was okay, could have done better. And I was like, I never get Bs. What the hell? Right, okay, we need to up our game now. And it was just a silly little thing, but it focuses your brain, and it's like, right, okay, time to take this seriously. Like, if you actually want to change.
And there was some slightly daft bits as well, and it was a bit of a punt at the start, but I don't know, Abby, you confess whether it helped or not, but I think the first action list went out and it was just a list. And there were a couple on there that I wrote completed, because we'd had the conversation. And I'm a big fan of writing out a list and sometimes sneaking something on the bottom that I know I'm already done, but then I can cross it off and I get the little dopamine hit.
I've done that this morning.
Yeah, but I think the second time we sent out the list, I actually color coded them as well. So there were greens and reds. And it did feel like that made a little bit of a difference. It did help a smidge.
Love a color coding. Love it. See, you knew me so well. I love, and I hate having the reds. Yeah, it is. Yes. And I think that's it. Is like you managed to pick up on how I work quite quickly. I'm guessing because we do approach things in quite a similar way. So I'm quite a visual learner. So if I have things that are color coded red, yellow, and green, I'm having a minor stress in the corner because I've got some red going on, and I'm like, I can't cope with it. So and I think that's the art of a good mentor, is to understand like how the person in front of you works. Because for some people that literally, it wouldn't have done a thing. But for me, because I'm quite practical, I'm quite visual, that sent me into a hot sweat.
Ben, you said at the beginning you had experience teaching, and you wanted to learn, or you felt like you were learning something from this process. What do you feel like you've come away with?
I think there's an element of I'd never formally been defined as a mentor. You always hope that you have a positive impact on people you work with, either direct reports into you or just sort of colleagues around you. And there are a few times where sort of people had suggested that I'd been helpful. I don't think I'd ever been called a mentor, but I'd certainly been helpful. And you do sort of think, oh shit, how did that happen? And so there was an element here of sort of there was an element of realizing, oh, that's how that happened. And I suppose what I came away from was a hell of a lot more confidence about being able to support colleagues and team members just beyond the program, you know, as a piece of, and that's how I pitched it to my business, because there is still, like I said, Abby said, 6 hours isn't a huge amount of time, but it is still 6 hours out of a business.
Yeah.
And like Abby, sort of the nature of the job, like 6 hours is really precious. So to justify to the business why they should let me sort of, you know, undertake this, I pitched it very much as CPD for me. Like, you know, if I am going to grow the sustainability team at Leprino, going to work even more across functions and really develop some of our internal resources, like this is a great skill to do so. And I do feel much better equipped actually to sort of be doing that. And we have sort of started to use those skills internally a lot more. So I do work with sort of team members and bits and pieces to grow them, help them develop, and it's just going to become more important, hopefully, as the sustainability team at Leprino.
Yeah, I was talking to somebody yesterday about the first thing to go when a company is struggling financially is usually the learning and development element of it. Back
Yeah.
when I started work, we had enormous teams of people. In fact, I was a trainer of 110 people at one point, and that's all I did all day long, run through programs. But those days have gone, so you're sort of expected to self-develop. And the chap I was talking to, was bemoaning the fact that really, where is the learning coming from now? How do you learn how to learn? How do you learn how to be a manager? How do you learn how to develop people around you? There's very little structured training being offered by the employer.
I think that's particularly sort of prevalent within agriculture. I mean, I'll be honest, my current employer, I couldn't be luckier, actually, to be fair. I mean, part of it is they are doing well. You know, I take your point, Bev, that sort of it's easy to do it when you're profitable. It's much harder to do it when you're struggling. But with Leprino, they have really invested, and they saw this as a great opportunity to. I mean, you could argue it's free CPD, but they saw it as a great opportunity for development. In agriculture, and as Abby pointed, when you're lone working in particular, sort of you can't train yourself. You don't know what you don't know.
Yeah.
In which case, sort of, where does it come from? And it really is sort of to the point where there's a bit of an epidemic of a lack of really sort of deep, rich education. We're okay, and I'd argue it's only just okay at delivering technical knowledge into agriculture. But if you look at sort of how farmers learn, or how we as human beings learn, like, you know, you give me 2 sides of A4 in a day on farm, and I'll learn something. But is it enough to really change what I do, who I am, how I think, my culture, my bias, my way of doing, to the point where I am moving forwards? You know, education as a progressor of change. Are we doing it justice? Well, the short answer is no. Like, we're really, really poor in agriculture. And I think there was absolutely, for me, an element in what sort of the TwoCan movement is doing of it was changing that. And in quite a different way. It wasn't just about, we'll adapt the sort of technical skill with a bit of behavioral insights, which is still something that we need to do anyway. But it was absolutely starting from the people side. So what can I do to equip this person to just fly, you know, to really start to move forwards? And there is categorically not enough of that in agriculture.
Interesting. And Abby, what have you found you do differently on a day-to-day basis? When did you finish the programme? When did you two last talk?
December we officially finished, didn't we? And then we had a bit of a catch-up, just because, I'll be honest with you, it was just nice to talk to Abby.
You missed her.
Yeah, no, there was an element of that. I mean, it's do it justice. I don't know if it would work every time and how good the matching is, but the algorithm was that good that there was genuinely a constant rapport. And I think it's easy to turn around and say, right, we've got 6 sessions and we'll do that and we'll just move on. But there's an element, I think, if you're really going to put your effort in, you do get invested. Like I genuinely have a real concern about Abby being able to do what Abby wants to do. And like the fact that things have moved forward does bring me immense joy. Like it's not just a like, oh, isn't it nice? Like, it's genuine, like, this is awesome. It's sort of, you know, it justifies the reason for doing it. So yeah, there have been little catch ups since, but formally December.
Yeah. I think we're just going from what Ben said. I think that's totally true, because when I put my brave pants on and I applied for the part-time job that I've now got, I didn't tell Ben, because I was like, I'm not going to jinx it. I literally told no one. And then I got offered the job and I told my parents, and I think Ben was probably the 3rd or 4th person I told. And I sent an email and I was like, you're never going to guess what? I've actually done an action point.
She knocked it out of the park as an action
Absolutely
point, right?
Knocked it out of the park.
Absolutely,
Yeah, no, it was
bright green. And yeah, there was an element that was like, oh, I really want to tell Ben this, because actually this is quite a big shift change in life that we talked about. And it was a lot down to the fact that he'd given me the confidence to go and do it, because I think a lot of it was deep down, I knew I could do it and I knew I could do the job and I knew I should go for it, because there was no reason not to, but I was holding me back. And he kind of just dispelled that, because he was like, well, why aren't you? Why can't you go and do it? And you're like, I don't know. I don't really have a reason, but I can't. Yeah. And so actually, when I got offered it, I was like, well, I really want to tell him, because actually he's been a major part of giving me the like
Yeah.
between Ben and my parents, they were all like, well, just do it, just get on with it, do it, go and do it, make yourself happy, do the stuff that you want to do. So yeah, I think it is, you kind of get invested in each other as well. And I was like, I really want to tell him that I've actually done something. So yeah, I think and I think that is where you can see the matching really works so well, because it isn't business like, it becomes more personal. And I think that's what mentoring is. It's quite a personal element.
I think it's
And
human
yes,
to human, isn't it? It's not wrapped up in the politics of where you work and all of that
absolutely.
positioning that you need to be mindful of. You were sort of referring to it earlier, Ben. I can be blunt with a client, but ultimately I need to make sure I don't lose this account by being too straightforward.
Yeah.
But this relationship, the nature of it is that you can be upfront about something, that there's no fallout or effect of actually just speaking truth to one another.
No, I mean, I only cried in the corner a couple of times afterwards.
Well, it is really emotionally draining though, Abby, isn't it? I mean, there were times in sort of like the call at end and sort of like I was fired up to go and do stuff myself. There was a bit of, because you can't not practice an element of what you preach when you're doing it as well. Because like Abby, like I'm very good at advising other people, but then doing it myself, like my wife will turn around, because she's probably a mentor to me in so many ways, certainly a motivator. Just go and do it. Like Abby's parents, just go and do it. Like, why can't you do it? And so you fired up a little bit and you're excited, and then you're excited what's going to come next month when we have the call, like, because you read the actions and like there's links to my past and I really enjoyed doing that bit, but that actually made me quite nervous, and it is hugely emotionally draining. There is quite an emotional toll. So I think to get through it and not have that legacy sort of investment would be odd. Like I'd have to be like a full sociopath not to not to have a degree of investment in it.
But I think, like, I found from my side as well, like, I'd see Ben's very good on LinkedIn and things like that. So I keep an eye on what he's getting up to and what trouble he's getting into. And it's really nice. It's really nice. Like, I find myself going, oh, he's done that. And oh, that's really cool. And you do get invested in what each other's doing as well.
Yeah, super. What advice would you give to anyone then, both of you, to anyone looking at either becoming a mentor or a mentee?
In the words of Nike, just do it. Yeah, I couldn't recommend it highly enough. Like, I found it so useful. And I think it's, if they say that you have to get comfortable with being uncomfortable, because when you're uncomfortable, that's when you're moving forward. And I think that's so true. So I think it's, if you're feeling a little bit uncomfortable about it, that's the time to go and do it.
Yeah, totally agree. Ben?
Yeah, I mean, on the one hand, I would absolutely sort of encourage people to really go. And I think just do it from a mentee point of view. From a mentor point of view, I think given that the mentees are heavily invested, quite often invested, there's a cost to them. I would, if you're thinking of being a mentor, I would definitely have a really good think about it. If you've got the time, you've got the drive and the inclination, and you can do it without bringing ego into it, as hard as that is. I mean, I really struggle. But if you can do that, then definitely do it. But absolutely, it has to be for the right reasons. You want to be able to get something out of it yourself. You do, be that CPD or, maybe a sense of sort of, you've given back. Whatever your motivation is, there has to be a genuine motivation for it. And then really buy into the process. Don't just go, oh, I'm going to be a mentor, and then end up being a coach, which is, it's all right, but it's all right. Like, genuinely buy into that TwoCan process, because the mentees, A, they deserve it, and B, that's going to be the key to success. So I'd have a considered just do it.
Yeah.
But I would really encourage others to get involved. Like, I think the one thing I would sort of, to the wider industry, like, I don't think you have to be strictly just a mentor or a mentee yourself to support it, but there are other ways to it. Like, if you're a business and you've got people that they are looking to develop in their career, then sponsor them through the process. Like, it's in all fairness to Helen and the team, it's a pretty cheap way of encouraging staff
Mm.
to stay with you
Mhm.
because you've invested in them, and you'll
Mm.
end up with a better staff member at the back of it, without a doubt. I think if you've got people who are people managers themselves, and it's an opportunity to, or they're looking to be, and you can give them an opportunity to be mentors, then give them those opportunities. Because again,
Mm.
it's at the mentor end, it's free CPD for your business.
Yeah.
The flip side is, I do think we need to see more of this in agriculture. So if there's ways that we can help, and Abby, you mentioned there's other mentoring opportunities out there, without a doubt. But if you can find a way to support mentoring, growth, and development of staff in agriculture, then I think as businesses we need to do it.
Yeah. Yeah. Fantastic. Thank you. I love listening to the pair of you. Obviously, you got on famously, and it is still evident today. So I really want to thank you both for sharing your story on here today.
Pleasure.
And good luck with the new role, Abby,
Thank you.
and on everything that's going on for you. I hope we all have a good year this year.
Yeah.
Thanks so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Take care. Bye.
It's a privilege for me to sit in on these conversations when you can clearly feel the friendship that's developed, and I'm hugely grateful to Ben and Abby for sharing their story with me. Well, if you'd like to find out more about how mentoring could impact your career, irrespective of which part you play, mentor or mentee, why not take the time to check out TwoCan Mentoring today? You can find all the details on their website, twocanmentor.co.uk. That's TWOCAN mentor.co.uk. Thanks for listening today. As always, if you've enjoyed the episode, why not leave a comment or share it with a friend? Special thanks to Helen Wyman and the TwoCan team for working with me on the podcast. Hit subscribe or follow for more episodes on mentoring as well as my usual ramblings. But for now, if it is past your bedtime, well, perhaps it's time to turn in. Until next time.